What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to give you 5 woodworking tips I wish I had known before I started my woodworking business. Let's dive in. Well, hey, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the show. Grateful that you're here. And in today's video, I want to give you 5 beginner woodworking tips I wish I had known when I started. And now some of this is going to be extremely practical to woodworking itself, and some of this is going to be more organizationally driven. So you want to stick around through all 5 of these to make sure that we're covering all of our bases, okay? So number 1, and this is probably the single greatest woodworking flaw that I ran into again and again and again from a skill standpoint. And that was, I would sand a project. I would think that it was perfect, it was beautiful, it was ready to go, and I would get ready to put my stain on my project, and I would realize that I had swirl marks all through my project from my sander that I couldn't see before I put the stain on it. So what that means is that it doesn't look good, and now I've got to go back, I've got to sand all that off. Again, that stain, you're going to spend a ton of money in sandpaper because that stain is going to clog up the pores of your sandpaper. You got to get that back down to raw wood and then restain it again. And guys, I've done this probably hundreds of times, I kid you not. And I finally figured out the way to prevent this, and that is to go buy like a handheld light bar that's about 20 inches long that you can run along the tabletop or the project that you're looking at, and you can see the micro details for where you maybe left those swirl marks or scratch marks from your sandpaper. So get a light bar. If you are the beginning woodworker or maybe even a seasoned woodworker, get you a light bar that you can hold really closely to the surface of your project and look over it. Make sure that you don't have any swirl marks before you put that stain on there, because once you do that, there's no turning back, okay? Number 2, understanding how many teeth you need to have on your blade based on what you're trying to do, okay? Now this is another very practical woodworking tip. There are blades that have 40 teeth. There are blades that have 100 teeth. How do I know which blade I need based on what I'm trying to accomplish? The more teeth that a blade has, the finer finish cut that it's going to provide, but it's more likely to burn your wood, and it's more likely to get bound up. So the less teeth that you have on your blade, the faster it's going to rip through your material, the less friction it's going to create, but it's not going to be as clean of a cut. So typically speaking, you have ripping blades and then you have cross-cut blades. In my wood shop, in my woodworking business, we have saw blades on our miter saws, which are cutting across the grain with higher teeth counts. And then our table saw, which is ripping along the grain, we have low teeth counts on those blades there. So we'll have anywhere from a 24 to a 45-ish tooth count on those ripping blades, and we'll have anywhere from an 80 to 100 tooth count on our cross-cut blades. Now, this is really a personal preference thing in a lot of ways. Test it out, try it, and see what you need. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to put a blade that has a ton of teeth on your table saw or your ripping blade, because it's just going to burn the wood. The blade is going to deteriorate a lot faster, and those blades are really expensive. Those high tooth count blades tend to be really expensive. Understanding how many teeth you need on your blade. Number 3 is understanding that just because you have better tools doesn't mean that you're a better woodworker. Okay, number 3, let's try that again. Understanding that just because you have better tools doesn't mean that you'll be a better woodworker or that you'll make more money if you're doing this to make money, if you're doing this as a side hustle or as a job. I meet so many people that all they want to do is they want to just buy more tools, buy more tools, buy more tools. And listen, I love buying tools. I think tools make our lives easier. I like having nice things, right? But the reality is tools don't bring you more jobs, and just because you have nice tools doesn't mean that you know how to even operate them correctly. I was talking with my shop the other day, talking about a planer that we have. We have a smaller DeWalt planer. I think it's like a $300 to $500 planer. And my guys fooled around and messed it up. They weren't paying attention, or they were trying to run a really long board through it, and all the weight was on the back of it, and they did something to throw it off track. And they were talking about how we need to go invest in a big planer. We've had big planers in the past, and guess what? We've broken them. And so it's one of those things that just because you have nice tools doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to fix all your problems. Be really wise about how you invest your money as you start your woodworking journey. If you're doing this to make money, I always encourage you to stay as lean as you can from a tool standpoint, as long as you can, and reinvest any excess profits into marketing. I think that marketing is your single greatest investment when you're starting out and you're trying to get traction with your woodworking business. Now, that's not to say that if you absolutely need to have a certain kind of tool because you literally can't do projects because you don't have it, well, you should go buy that tool. If you already have a joiner, you don't need to upgrade to a nicer joiner. If you already have a table saw, saw. Don't upgrade to a $3,500 saw stop. Be smart about how you spend your money when it comes to investing in tools and reinvesting in the right things early in your business. That's, again, if you're doing it as a business. Number 4, this is probably one of the best tips that I can give beginner woodworkers, those that are just starting out, those that are trying to get some traction, thinking about building a woodworking business, is to keep it simple. Number 4 is keep it simple. And so when we talk about keeping it simple, we're talking about actually how you build what you build. Keep your joinery simple. Don't be trying to throw dovetail joints in everything that you're doing. Keep your plans simple. When it comes to how we're gonna build this thing, try to simplify it as much as possible. Keep your designs simple. Right out of the gate, listen, unless you have a lot of great woodworking skills, if you try to take on projects that you've never done before that are really complex, you're gonna butcher it, and you're probably gonna underbid it if you're doing it to make money. You're gonna underbid it dramatically. Right? So you're going to be like, I think I can really do it in 20 hours, so I'm going to quote 30 hours worth of labor. Well, it's really going to take you 50 hours because you've never done anything that complex before. Just keep it simple. When you're first starting out, you don't have to dive off in the deep end, doing all the crazy stuff that you see these absolute stars doing on YouTube, doing their live edge stuff, Black Forest Wood Co., John Malecki, all these guys that are just crushing it. You don't have to do those projects yet. Why? Because you're not a seasoned vet, right? You're not a seasoned woodworker. So be patient, trust the process, keep it simple. Lastly, number 5, this one is probably the single greatest thing that I can give you from an organizational standpoint, is that it doesn't take a lot to derail a project. So make a checklist and think through it before moving on to the next phase inside of your project, okay? One of the things that I see a lot of people do, and the mistake that I see a lot of people make, is that they get ahead of themselves inside of their project. They'll get further down the line and start working on something, and there was something they were supposed to do back here at the beginning that they failed to do because they weren't organized. They didn't have a process in place. As you start as a woodworker or as a woodworking business owner, make sure that you have a strategic plan with everything that you're doing inside of your business or inside of that project. I'm a big advocate for, based on the phase I'm in this project, what tools do I need? I'm gonna go get all those tools. I'm gonna set them at my workbench so I have everything that I need. And then before I take that project, let's say from sanding to staining, I wanna make sure that I've got everything squared away before I stain this thing. After I stain it and I'm gonna put my final finish on it, I wanna make sure that it's perfect before I go do that. A lot of the mistakes that my woodworking business has made has been because we rush through phases and we don't double check what we're doing before we move to the next phase. So if this video was helpful to you, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and also check out the free resources that I have for you in the description below. You're gonna wanna check out the Handmade Business Secrets ebook. You can download that completely for free. And then we've got some courses and some programs that are really gonna help you if you're trying to turn this into a business and you don't know how to market, you don't know how to sell, you don't know how to get clients. Listen, that's one of the biggest bottlenecks that we see, and we want to help you figure out how to do that. So with that being said, love you guys so much. Thanks for subscribing, liking the video, and we'll see you in the next one.